Thank you for coming today, and welcome to the 5th annual discussion of the bottom line of disabilities. My name is Monica Rafferty, and it's been my privilege to be involved as a board member with Columbus for the past 6 years. Now, there's one thing I've learned over that time, and that is before Columbus undertakes anything, they fully evaluate the costs and benefits to their clients, to society, to the economy, and to their business partners. After all, the costs and benefits are what make up the bottom line of disabilities. Now, many of you know that Columbus was formed in 1968 by some dedicated families looking to create meaning and dimension for their disabled children. And they started with just 8 students. Now, from that modest beginning, Columbus Community Center has grown into one of the nation's most respected providers of vocational training and employment programs for adults with disabilities. Since 1968, Columbus has served the goals of those founding families by helping thousands of Utah's adult disabled population find dignity and meaning through work. Now, while Columbus serves adults with all kinds of disabilities, today's program is specifically focused on autism disorder. I'd like to share a few statistics with you. At 2% of our population, Utah has the 3rd highest rate of autism in the United States. Now, Utah's population right now is 3 million, and we're projected to be at 4 million by 2035. And what that means is that more than 60,000 individuals living with autism live in Utah, and that number is going to continue to grow. Now, studies show that fewer than 1/3 of people with autism are intellectually disabled, yet unemployment for that demographic is above 80%. Now, in a time when Salt Lake's unemployment rate is at an all-time low, a lot of people are quoting it below 3% right now. Individuals who want to work and are capable of working are in high demand. Now, I don't know about you, but I see an opportunity, and so does Columbus, and that's why we're here. Utah's businesses have an enormous need for employees, and Utah's autistic population is growing and capable of filling jobs. Today's program is designed to help all of us figure out how to assemble the right puzzle pieces so that we can put these 2 groups together for success. Now, to get us started today, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Christy Chambers. Christy is uniquely qualified to understand all aspects of the bottom line because she's a certified public accountant. And prior to developing her skills and focusing her energy on the nonprofit sector, Christy held top management positions in healthcare, real estate, retail, and hospitality organizations. So now, to tell you more about Columbus, its mission, and today's program, I give you the CEO of Columbus Community Center, Christy Chambers.
Good, make sure I put this up. Alrighty, can people hear me? Excellent. Alrighty, good morning everyone, and welcome to our 4th annual Bottom Line of Disability. I have the distinct pleasure of having the opportunity to be a part of Columbus for the last 2 years and taking part in its mission. Our mission started 50 years ago, and I was talking to John Vandersteck just this morning, and we have come a long way, baby. When you look at disabilities and our ability to integrate people into our community and transform lives, it is really quite profound. Columbus was started by founding parents who were fierce about wanting their children to have a different life, to be more integrated, to have opportunities, to be able to work in the workforce, to be able to live independently. And Columbus has embodied that over the last 50 years and has moved the dot in so many directions, in so many good ways, in so many forward-thinking ways. We are taking our focus and putting that to good work with the autism spectrum. And today what you will hear is experts in their field, dedicated parents, dedicated providers, dedicated practitioners, dedicated people who are looking to change policy to continue the efforts of integrating everyone that we possibly can into our workforce. No person on the spectrum comes with a manual, and we know this. It's not an easy thing. There's a lot of study that goes into this. There's a lot of good thinking, high intellect, and you're going to see that today. One of the most wonderful things that I ever heard was from a teacher, and what she had to say was that people on the spectrum and the people that she taught are a beautiful gift that we all have the opportunity to unwrap. And that's what we're going to be doing today, is unwrapping this unique and interesting population in a way that hopefully helps you understand it and gives you a sense of where we are currently and where we're going. On your table, I want to just point out a couple of things. We couldn't do this without our sponsors. So if you look on the inside here, please thank those who are sponsoring us today. We can't do this without their support, as well as you're going to see some really wonderful material that we've used up at the state legislature that gives you those wonderful statistics that Monica had shared with you, and then some. Also, you'll see that we are starting into our next work hub of opportunity, which is 156 unit affordable housing. And again, I encourage you all in between speakers to take a look at this and learn more about that. So thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. I think you're in for a real treat today.
Thank you, Christy. Now, unfortunately, the weather problems with Delta kept David Kotak from joining us today to discuss his involvement with the GIC. However, many of you know Stephanie Mackay. Stephanie is the Chief Innovation Officer for Columbus and has been integral to the Columbus mission since 2004. And fortunately for all of us, Stephanie also serves on the board of directors of the Global Interdependence Council and is ready to fill David's shoes and fill us all in on their work. Please join me in welcoming Stephanie Mackay.
Yes, we had two of my GIC colleagues call on a panic yesterday. They couldn't get into Salt Lake till Tuesday at the earliest on Delta, so it was pretty nasty in the southeast. So I am honored as a staff member of Columbus Community Center as the Chief Innovation Officer and a new board member to the Global Interdependence Center to welcome you on behalf of the GIC. About 5 years ago, I started having some conversations with David Kotak, who is a longtime member and leader in the GIC, and it took a little arm twisting to convince him that disabilities really tends to be an economic issue, and the mission and vision of the Global Interdependence Center is to really bring together experts from all over the world to engage in dialogue about different topics that are related to economics and social issues and political issues and financial issues. And when you think about it, 1 in 5 people with in the population has a disability, so there's incredible ramifications from families all the way to governments. And so it's been a wonderful collaboration between the two organizations, and I'm really grateful that we've been able to continue to do this every year and have great support from the Global Interdependence Center, and Jill Fernito, our program director, is here today. One of the things I love about my job is I get to travel around Salt Lake, and I get to travel around the country and around the world, both as a representative of Columbus and a representative of the GIC. And whenever I tell anybody about the work that I do, they're always so grateful that there are people out there like all of us here today who are really trying to make a difference in the lives of individuals with disabilities. And what I find is that when I talk to somebody over dinner, and I just never know when this is going to happen, what ends up is I end up having a very tender and candid conversation with individuals who've been impacted by disabilities. And I feel very humbled, and I feel that I have a great responsibility to listen to those stories and bring those stories back to my job and incorporate those stories into the larger picture of what we do. But the one thing I do know is that individuals with disabilities and their families, they live, it's a cradle to grave issue, and they live with hope, and they live with love, and they live with fear, and they live with disappointment and frustration, and they don't always know what the future is going to look like for themselves and their children. And as a mother myself of some 20-year-olds, I've become very, very aware that the generation that's walking out of public schools today, these young adults on the spectrum, are really getting peeled away from their peers. A lot of them are ending up in the basement of their parents' homes. And we're really seeing a huge loss of human capital that's just kind of somewhere out there, and we don't know where they are, we don't know who they are, but we have a lot of incredible people coming together in every walk of life who are trying to make a difference and bring those kids back into our community. And it's a little reductive to talk about the 3% unemployment rate and the 80% unemployment rate, 3% in Utah, 80% among these young adults with autism. But I hope that in bringing all these experts together today, that we kind of look at those numbers and some of those big pictures, and we really drill it down, and we walk away together with a commitment to really design a blueprint of change. I still stay in close contact with some of our founding parents who are in their 90s now, who made Columbus happen, and I know that we can keep shifting the paradigm and keep making things better for our world, and that's part of my motivation for bringing this group together every year. So you're going to meet and hear some incredible people today, and I hope you take some time afterwards to connect and kind of recommit to making the difference in the lives of families and individuals with disabilities. And we do it with love and respect, and we do it with incredible commitment.
So Christy mentioned this sheet in your package, and you know, statistics are really important, but it's really so compelling to listen to experience. Our keynote speaker today is Mr. Elliot Francis. Elliot is a graduate of the Multidisciplinary Design Program at the University of Utah. He is currently an IT program manager at the U and a co-founder of Optimizing Autism. Elliot's accomplishments include the development and deployment of 2 mission-critical internal software systems for the University of Utah. Elliot and his wife of 5 years live and work in Salt Lake City. Oh, and by the way, Elliot is an autist. Please join me in welcoming Elliot Francis.
No offense, Ms. Chambers, I actually do come with a user manual. Yes. I wrote one for my wife on our 3rd date. So, I've been introduced, so you probably don't need to hear a whole lot about that. But what I can do is I can start giving you my backstory and a little bit of how I see that affecting or serving as a model for developing services for individuals on the autism spectrum moving forward. And I have to preface this by saying that my experience is an N of 1 study. It is not a representative sample of just about anything. They mentioned that my degree is in multidisciplinary design. Well, the actual truth on that is that I graduated from the office through the undergraduate studies program as the last proof of concept for the multidisciplinary design program before it became a formal program in the Department of Architecture at the University of Utah. I came by it a little weirdly. Originally, I had started out as seeking to be a mechanical engineer. And after spending 2 years doing all the preliminary work for that, I decided I didn't want to build anybody else's widgets for a living. I then took a rather pinball-like process across several other departments throughout the University of Utah before finally deciding that they didn't really offer what I wanted to do and pitching a custom degree program through the Office of Undergraduate Studies. I think it worked out pretty well, but you know, that's just the way it happens. So, yes, I am an autist, but I haven't let that be an inhibiting feature of my life. In fact, I consider it to be one of the crowning capabilities that I have. Now, it took me nearly 10 years of work and support to actually get to a point where I am 100%, I wouldn't say functional is the word, but sailing clear of the issues that I encountered through high school and throughout college. And there are two things that have led to this success. And if you don't take anything else away from what I say today, these are probably the two most important things that you're going to want to keep in mind. First is that autists are in no way broken. Autism can be an incredibly powerful motivator. It can provide incredibly powerful insight into whatever environment it's introduced into, whether that be the work or home environment. And learning to deal with it can have a positive effect on both the autist and the people that are interacting with them. Second is, like any powerful tool, it takes a lot of training to learn how to use it right. And it requires support from people who already have experience in specific areas in order to make that work. So those are the two things that you need to take away. And the rest of this is all just kind of embroidery on how I got to this point. High school was incredibly difficult for me because nobody would explain the rules. Now, I'm pretty sure that's common to just about every teenager who actually goes into high school. But it's especially difficult for individuals on the autism spectrum because we don't codify the unusual quirks and the shifting landscape that represents social interaction, especially in high school, without a significant amount of outside help. Now, I didn't really get all that much outside help in high school, but I was incredibly fortunate to have teachers who were used to dealing with weird students. My favorite was a gentleman by the name of Thomas Deaver, who taught science and the remedial mathematics course at West High School. Mr. Deaver was a fantastic teacher who was used to working with at-risk students, and I found a very safe haven by hanging out in his classroom at lunchtime, so I didn't have to deal with anybody else, and had absolutely fantastic conversations with anybody who cared to drop by. The entire resistance of the educational institution of West High hung out in Thomas Deaver's classrooms during lunch. Anybody who didn't think things were being taught right came there and discussed how to teach it better. So I learned a lot from that experience. As time moved forward, I had a large number of people who were willing to take the time to explain the things that I didn't seem to quite understand. Now, sometimes their explanations didn't make sense, or I decided that their explanations were complete and utter crap and decided to ignore them anyway. But that's more a testament to my stubborn desire to categorize and systematize things in a way that makes sense that came as a part of my autism, rather than necessarily them giving bad information. I graduated from high school in 2005. Okay, there we go, got the number. I graduated from high school in 2005 and pretty much promptly face planted. I'm LDS. I signed up and was accepted to serve a mission. 2 weeks into my experience at the MTC, for those of you who are LDS and are familiar with the pressure cooker that is the Provo MTC, would know that that would be an absolutely horrible experience for someone on the spectrum. Well, got out of that pretty quickly. 2 weeks later, I went home and immediately turned around and asked for an opportunity to serve somewhere else rather than give up. I served a year doing technical support for the family history efforts of the LDS Church. They then turned around and hired me after I got finished with the mission, in between then and starting school at the University of Utah. In all of these environments, I was gifted with people who were willing to help me understand the patterns that didn't make sense. And I'm pretty sure that most of the patterns that I still sort of adhere to today don't make sense. But it makes it a little easier for everybody around me when I pay a little more attention to them, even if I don't like them. The real transition started for me. The real progress in transition started for me when, in 2007, I basically had a mental breakdown in the middle of my physics class and was unable to figure out how to make it all work. There were things going on both in my personal life, my professional life, and my educational life that just completely flattened my ability to respond. It depleted all of the reserves that I had. And at that point, I had the opportunity to try and get my pilot's license. I decided that I really wasn't going to do well in the classical educational system, and then I needed to find something that I was really passionate about to move forward. So I decided I wanted to be a helicopter pilot. And this makes sense for a large number of reasons, because anybody who's familiar with the process of piloting an aircraft, especially in a professional setting, is that it's really, really rigid. You got checklists for everything. There's a prescribed method, there's a prescribed format for interacting with every person on the aircraft or involved with the aircraft. The ATC radio training was really kind of fun because there was always a correct answer. There was no ambiguity, and in fact, there couldn't be ambiguity. Unfortunately, I didn't quite pass the psychiatric portion of that exam, but it did start pointing me in the direction that possibly the patterns that had been laid down for individuals who weren't autists probably weren't going to work for me. And it started giving me the courage. Okay. Well then, let's lean forward a little more here. And the end result was that over the next 5 years, with the help of Bruce Parsons and a number of other individuals, I was able to do a deep dive into my own life, to undertake the process of designing a life that would work for me. It started with trying to get my pilot's license, failing at that, jumping around until I was able to put together a degree program at the University of Utah that worked for me, get into a job at the University of Utah that adapted to my needs and taught me how to work with both the employment and the educational system on equal footing to figure out the best way for me to integrate and contribute. The results of this include the founding of the Optimizing Autism organization in an effort to codify and replicate the success that I've had. It involved me getting married, something that I thought would never happen. And it involved me evolving into a job that over the course of 9 years now has transitioned from me being an intern working under desk IT to being an IT project manager in charge of a brand new RFID inventory system for the capital assets at the University of Utah and the mission critical system that manages and bills the research instruments, including multi-million-dollar scanning electron microscopes and large numbers of research instruments covering, I think we're at 30 departments now and have something like 2,000 users. Both of those systems were only possible as a result of the level of systematizing and the frameworks that I can build in my head as a result of my autism. And as a result of the patience, the understanding, and the somewhat hands-off attitude of the people that I've had the pleasure of working with, who have basically been willing to sort of throw their hands up in the air and say, okay, we don't know how you do it, but it works. All of this is stuff that can be replicated. Nothing that I've done, none of the help that I have received is particularly unique or special. The only thing that makes it special is the fact that it was made available to me. And in an effort to provide the same opportunity that I received, I've received to everybody on the autism spectrum, regardless of their current level of ability, if they have the desire to improve, if they have the desire to take their specialties and their abilities, which are great, they're scattered all over the map, but they are great. We are in the process of finishing up the founding of Optimizing Autism, which originally started out as one small workshop supported by Dr. McMahon and the University of Utah Psychiatric Department, to give individuals on the autism spectrum who have already passed through the gauntlet the opportunity to come back and provide input and insight to those who are just starting their journey. We've been running these for 4 years now. Oh, wait, sorry. We've had 4 of them now. We've been doing it for 3 years. There we go. And we're going to be doing our next one on the 29th. And this is going to be an opportunity. It's an opportunity for individuals on the autism spectrum, wherever they are on the age spectrum, to come in and present their methods for adapting to the environment that they've been placed in. I've had the opportunity to present 2 or 3 times now at these. People usually ask me to talk about the user manual that I wrote for my wife, mostly because it was an excellent exercise in me doing a whole life evaluation and figuring out exactly which pieces were most important. Providing these kinds of events and services, things like this, things like the workshop, that give those of us on the autism spectrum an opportunity to ask questions in an environment where we're absolutely sure somebody's not going to look at us and say, "Are you stupid?" is, in my opinion, the best and most effective way to shepherd them across the service cliff that comes when you graduate from high school. Providing the opportunity to ask the questions that aren't immediately apparent and be shepherded in the direction of which questions to ask is the thing that let me move forward in a way that I could get to where I am now. And now, having been through that, it's my responsibility to turn around and take the experience that I've had and provide it as both a reference point and as a knowledge bank to those who are interested in understanding how I got where I am, and spreading that desire to act as a resource to those who are coming behind you, to as many people as I possibly can. If I had to boil it down to two services, or even one service, that I wish I could see in every high school, in every college, in every work environment across the United States, across the world, it would be having the training in place so that those in a position of authority and advisory understanding can provide a safe space. I know that's a loaded term in the current environment, but a safe space for individuals on the autism spectrum to come in and ask for answers to the questions that everybody else already seems to know the answers to. Generally, about this point, this is where people start having questions to ask me. So I've allocated 10 minutes for people to badger me with for additional detail about things that I probably missed. It's a little difficult to keep everything organized when you're up here presenting, so I like to provide the opportunity for people to reorganize pieces that I may have missed. Any questions? Do I need to pull a microphone off? And okay, just yell. I'm sure it'll pick it up.
I work with a lot of young men that end up in a psychiatric unit with mental health issues after high school. They come in with depression, use of substances because they've kind of fallen off that cliff. And many times they are in denial of the autism diagnosis. Did you experience that at all? And how do you respond to these young men or young women who do not want that label or who are rejecting that label and are still falling off that cliff?
I've been on a 72-hour psychiatric hold, so I know what it's like to be on the inside of those places. They're very scary. They're very difficult to deal with. Denial of who you are and what you are is something that everybody struggles with. And the primary reason that I would assume that individuals on the autism spectrum would rather be in denial than they would be labeled is because autism continues to carry a significant stigma. A lot of that has to do with the fact that a significant amount of the resources and the media focus on autism is about those individuals who are severely disabled, who do need significant amounts of outside assistance, or about individuals with whom autism comes comorbid with other conditions that cause behavioral problems, resulting in significant breakdowns, lashing outs. I would encourage anybody who thinks they might be on the autism spectrum, who has been told they've been on the autism spectrum, to sit down and, instead of letting someone else's understanding of the diagnosis of autism inform your own understanding of who you are, I would say that it is more important to understand how your own thought processes and how your own way of interacting with the world brings differing perspective to the situations that you're in, and how that can be an incredibly powerful thing. Large companies often spend large sums of money to bring in people with outside perspective. Individuals on the autism spectrum bring that natively to the environments that they're in, and are a good deal more loyal than the consultants that you'll hire. So there are opportunities there to take the specializations that you have and turn them around on the people who think that they're not useful. So it's trite, it's well worn. Appreciate who you are. Take the strengths that you have and run with them. And everybody else will follow. Don't let someone else's definition of what autism is define how you feel about it. Because at least then you've made an informed decision. So.
So what has helped you present in public like now? My observation is that you can just keep getting better and better. It's astounding, but I'm sure it comes with a good deal of work and self-monitoring, et cetera. Could you talk a little bit about the trajectory of being able to tell your own story?
It all started with being able to sit down and put it all into a manual. The ability to express yourself is the ability to understand yourself. Anybody who stands up and talks for 3 hours in long meandering sentences about metaphysical weirdness and crap like they really don't quite understand how they work is someone who actually really doesn't understand how they work. Taking the time to sit down and try and understand your own personal abilities, your own personal understanding of how you work gives you a very clean center to operate from. When you know a topic, when you know a subject, when you're an expert in a piece of subject matter, you can basically talk to any question or anything that's related to that topic with very little preparation and still sound reasonably coherent. My process has basically involved getting up behind podiums like this over and over and over again and just talking to people about what it's like to be me. And that is how I reflect off the responses that I get to more fully understand the nuances of who I am, and it also gives me an opportunity to collect diverse perspectives on how people see me. And by reconciling those two viewpoints, I'm able to much more effectively convey to whoever I'm talking to what's necessary to form a bridge of understanding between what their experience is, what your experience is, and what mine is. When you can translate across that gap, it's not an adversarial process anymore. It's about helping both sides understand the other's perspective better.
I assume you have a team of people that you work with. Do you look for people with autism to help with your work, or how many and how do you relate with other people with autism?
I'm assuming by work with, do you mean in a professional context as a developer or for the optimizing autism stuff? One-man developer shop. So the answer to that question is that I don't actually work with other people. That's more of a function of the financing situation in the department that I work with than it is anything else. But I would most definitely look forward to the opportunity to work more closely with individuals on the autism spectrum, because they routinely have the level of attention to detail that makes developing complex systems very much easier, because they can hold, as a result of their visual thinking rather than their linguistic thinking, they can hold large complex concepts much more effectively than most individuals who are not on the autism spectrum, making them perfect for doing just about anything that requires nearly obsessive attention to detail. So, unfortunately, I can't speak much beyond that, other than to say that the skills that the individuals on the autism spectrum bring to the table are critical, and they're in demand, as far as I can tell, especially in the technology sectors, where the ability to visualize and manipulate complex systems in your head is something that gives you a tremendous advantage over anybody who can't. So. I do believe that is the end of my time. Thank you for listening to me ramble, and I sincerely hope that you enjoy the rest of the presentations today.